Before I introduce our speaker, I want to thank Pete Peterson again for helping arrange this particular speaker today, and also want to give him another compliment. You remember when Doc Sanders was here, I complimented him on he finally got ETSU to go to Freedom Hall and play basketball. Before I left the manager's job in Johnson City in 2001, we had offered Millennium Center to ETSU, and Pete and Dr. Nolan pulled that off about 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was. So that's a great accomplishment. And also Dr. Bennett was very thankful because the computing department's using it quite a bit. But it is a pleasure and an honor to introduce our speaker today. Dr. Nolan is the 9th president, starting in 2012 at the East Tennessee State University. Before that, he most recently was at the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission for about 6 years. And before that, he was at the Tennessee Higher Education Policy Group. And so when he came to state, he obviously was well versed in a lot of the modern approaches to higher education. So one of the first things he did was develop the mission statements towards making sure that teaching, research, and service to the students was ongoing. He's also been involved in probably the largest capital campaign that the university's had over several years, including, of course, the Martin Center for Fine Arts, which is a tremendous facility if you haven't been there yet. Bill Green Stadium, football stadium, which also is a very nice facility, and also very much involved in the renovation of DP Culp Center. If you haven't seen that, it's really amazing the difference and all. And then also a professional office building there on campus. He's been involved, of course, in regional activities. One of the regional activities was Over Mountain Recovery Center, which I hadn't really heard that much about, but his effort by civic and corporate people to create a treatment and recovery center for addictive behavior, and also secured $25 million for a regional rural health center, which is very important. So he's obviously been very involved. Also, he restructured a lot of student services to where now ETSU has the highest graduation rate they've ever had in the university's history. Also in 2019, they introduced the campaign for ETSU with a target of $120 million, and I happened to be at the event last fall when they announced they were at $163 million, which is a tremendous job for a regional university. At least I don't know of any other state universities that have done that kind of work and all, but certainly he's had a great career. He's also been a member of 2 national higher education boards. He's also a member of the ballot board. He's a member of the TVA board in Launch, Tennessee, which is involved in all the entrepreneurial activities in the state. Just a tremendous career so far. If you go to the Vita, colleges like Vitas. There's about 2 pages of papers and presentations and all that kind of stuff that colleges like to read about and all that kind of stuff. But I think he's better known, and I don't know that I've seen a leader of a college that has more impact on the students, and maybe it's because, except maybe the ones that he beat in basketball one-on-one. I don't know if you remember that, but he was big on doing that early on, playing with a lot of people in basketball. But also somebody that I didn't know he was going to wear. I knew he'd wear his bow tie today, probably. Didn't know he was going to wear his blue and gold saddle Oxfords. It's the only pair I've ever seen, but he's also got ETSU socks on also. So he lives it every day, and he's done a tremendous job. And I might say he's got 2 degrees from West Virginia, but his doctorate is from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. But it's a real great pleasure to introduce Dr. Nolan.
Wow. Well, thank you. And I only wish that my mom was here to hear that. And in fact, my mom is in town, and kind of want to frame my comments today in maybe a little bit of a different lens. I will talk some about the year in review at the university. We'll give a sense of some things that are planned for the upcoming academic year. But I want to explain my ridiculous get-up, including the shoes. Today's final graduation day on campus. This has been a month in which we as a university have celebrated the achievements of our students from the beginning of May to the end. As many are aware, we're a university that was formed more than 110 years ago as one of 3 teachers' colleges. We were a normal school when we opened our doors in 1911. But when we opened our doors in 1911, one of the aspects of that institution was a K-12 facility that has been in existence ever since. So at the beginning of the month, we had the opportunity to graduate 2,000 students, everything from the Quillen College of Medicine to the Gatton College of Pharmacy to bachelor's degrees. And then today, the students who are enrolled at the university school will graduate. And the family aspect of this is I've probably presided over 60 graduation ceremonies. I don't think I've ever cried at one, but I'm going to cry tonight because my son graduates. And the passage of time is when we started at East Tennessee State University. My son was in the first grade. And one of the real beautiful aspects of the school that he's had the honor to attend is at the baccalaureate ceremony last night, there were 6 students who stood who've all been together since the first grade in this same little school. And you don't see many schools like this in America where the principal sits at the front door, greets every student by name as they walk through. Students have the opportunity literally to go to first grade through 5th grade on the bottom floor, middle school's on the middle floor, and high school's on the top floor, the same way it's been since it opened its doors in 1929. But my get up today is because it's commencement day, and a little bit later I'll have on regalia, and we'll go about the process of trying to confer a degree without crying. But let's talk a little bit about some things that have transpired here in the review. I mentioned that we had commencement at the beginning of the month, and at that commencement exercise, there were thousands of students who graduated, but I want to share 2 stories with you that really drive home the reason why the university exists. This is an institution that was founded in 1911 for a singular reason, to improve the quality of life for the people of this region. And sometimes we can take things that are in our backyards for granted, and we lose track of the impact that they have not only on communities as a whole, but you lose track of the impact that they have on people. So my 2 graduation stories before I get into some updates are as follows. 11 years ago, I met this young woman who was cleaning my building. And she was maybe 19 at the time. And I asked this person, how long have you worked for the university? Talk to me a little bit about your background. And over the course of a decade, this young woman has worked in my building every single day, making her way through life. But what she really was doing was using the benefits that are afforded by the institution, which is 2 free classes per semester for every single employee, to go to school. Her family didn't have a lot of resources, and the only way she was able to find the path that she had for her dream in life was to clean floors and clean buildings, and to do that at night and to take classes during the day. And every single semester I'd ask her how she was doing, and every single semester I'd ask her how she was doing. And last fall at the close of the semester, I asked how she was doing. She goes, I've got 3 classes left and I'm going to graduate. And I go, so you're going to take all those in the spring? And she goes, no, employee benefits only pay for 2, so I'll graduate in the summer. We worked through some things to change that up so she could move through in the spring. And I didn't see her all spring long. Last week of April, I'm walking across campus and she comes up to me excited. And I said, how are you doing? I'm sure you're excited about graduation. She goes, no, I don't care about graduation. I'm excited for what I learned today. And I said, well, tell me what you learned. And she pulled this letter out of her little notepad. She said, I got a job in Charlotte as an accountant. I'm starting at $65,000. And I'm the first person in my family to not be poor. And tears are pouring down her face. So I tell that story by design because quite often we see things in the newspaper and think all kinds of stuff happens at institutions. But what really happens at institutions such as ours, a blue-collar school, is that hardworking people from hardworking communities have the opportunity to realize their dreams. And the next story is a story that I don't think Dr. Sander or Coach Quarles told you, but it's a story involving our starting quarterback. Our starting quarterback graduated this past semester. I'm pretty confident he's going to come back and use this COVID year to play for us in the fall because we need a quarterback because we weren't very good last year and we need him to help move things up and down the field. But what you may not know about our quarterback, and I doubt that there's any other quarterback in Division I who does this. Our quarterback comes from a challenged background. He's the first person in his family ever to go to college. He doesn't have anything. And if you were to go to the Kroger in Johnson City over by campus on Sunday morning between 6 and 10 o'clock, there's going to be a young man with really long hair who's stocking grocery shelves. And he does that 4 days a week, and he's done that for the past 3 years. Gets up every morning, 6 o'clock, after he's had a game the night before, and stocks groceries. And does so very quietly, doesn't ask for any help. He walked across the stage, first person in his family to receive a degree. Once again, blue-collar school, hard-working people, normal Americans pursuing the American dream. And as I look at our university and the things that have happened over the 12 years that I've had the honor to serve this institution, what I'm the most proud of are the 35,000 students who've received their degrees in the time period that I've been here. That's a whole lot of hands to shake. And you definitely don't want to shake my hand late Saturday afternoon because it's the most contagious thing in the whole region. But it's a distinct honor to have the opportunity to get to know students who move through the institution along that path. At the graduation for the Quillen College of Medicine, 2 days before the full graduation, there was a young man who walked across the stage, received his degree. He's going to do his residency in essentially cardiology. This was a young man that was on our first football team. He's the first person in his family ever to graduate from high school, and he used that football scholarship to graduate from bachelor's degree and to get into Quillen. And what's he going to do? He's going to practice and enroll in family medicine. We are an institution where 70% of all the people who run the hospitals and the healthcare elements within this region graduated from ETSU. In fact, 80% of the people with baccalaureate degrees who live within 30 miles of campus graduated from ETSU. You're not going to find a school, a physician's office, or a business in this region that isn't run by people who graduated from the university. And as you heard, this past year we had the highest graduation rate in the history of the institution, the highest retention rate in the history of the institution, the second largest freshman class in the history of the institution, and the residence halls are full. So as we look at the year in review, there are a couple things that have happened that I'm pretty excited about, and there's some things that are on the horizon that I'm also excited about. But I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to recognize a milestone event that transpired this legislative session and thank State Representative Hawk for the work that he did to make this outcome possible. You know, this is a region that the state forgets about. Most people think the state ends right where 81 and 40 come together. They really think the state ends in Knoxville. So this region has to do things on its own. It's a region that has to fight and scrap for everything that it has. But this is a region that a couple decades ago came together and fought and scrapped for the creation of a pharmacy school. And when the state, particularly Knoxville, said, we don't want you to have a pharmacy school, we said, we'll fund it on our own. And when the state, particularly Knoxville, said, well, we don't think you can do that, what did we do? We turned around and raised $7 million in a month, and we created the Gatton College of Pharmacy. Almost 1,000 students are practicing pharmacists because of the investment that this community made. And for the past decade and a half, that College of Pharmacy has existed as a private school. But what we were able to do this year, thanks to the leadership of the General Assembly, is receive $2.5 million in state support that we then turned around and reduced the price of tuition and fees for our students so that students from rural Northeast Tennessee who are going to Gatton will now pay $60,000 less over the course of their four-year degree because of that investment. And what does that mean? That means more of those students have the opportunity to live in rural communities because they're not straddled by that weight. So the deal that we made 2 decades ago to start Gatton has now turned a page a little bit, and now we have an opportunity for more students from low-income backgrounds to realize that dream. So that was a major accomplishment this year, and it changes the face of the College of Pharmacy in many respects. But thank you for your leadership, and thank you for making that possible. As we kind of look at some things that transpired this year, I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to visit the Martin Center for the Arts, but a dream that has existed since I walked across the stage and received my high school degree, because it's something this region started talking about in 1986, finally came to fruition. And that was Broadway on the stage in the Tri-Cities. We had Chicago, Cats, Riverdance, and Annie. Every performance was sold out, and we will later this summer announce the series of activities for next year. But in addition to having Broadway on the main stage, we had internationally recognized speakers such as New York Times columnist David Brooks. We've had multiple concerts, including Amy Grant a few weeks ago, and it's been the home for select performances by the symphonies. If you're really looking for something to put you in the holiday season, go ahead and mark your calendars for the first week in December of next year, because the Christmas concert in the Martin Center is as good as any Christmas concert you're ever going to see. And I hope if you've not visited that center that you have the opportunity to do so as we move into the fall. You know, as we move into the fall, we're excited about some things that are coming to fruition at the university. Some new buildings are coming up and out of the ground. Lamb Hall, which is a building that's about 80 years old, has been the home of public health. Top 25 ranked College of Public Health in the nation, will open its doors, completely renovated facility. If any of you are alum of the university, do you remember the old University Center? It was the Student Center back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. If you want to visit it a little bit more, you've only got about 4 months left to see the building, because come this fall we're going to take it to the ground and we're going to build a state-of-the-art classroom building in its space. Also excited to begin the work to renovate Brown Hall. For those of you who've taken classes there in biology and chemistry, the building looks the same way as it did when you took biology and chemistry classes there. That's getting ready to change once again thanks to the investment of the state, and we'll completely renovate that facility. I'm excited about some work that we're doing in the space of business and technology. Dr. Bennett was here, a fantastic faculty member. Under his leadership, we've got a really unique program with Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Chattanooga. We're in a 27-month time frame. Students can receive their degree in computer science, and then they're guaranteed employment at Blue Cross. We have faculty members on ground, on site in Chattanooga every day teaching computer science to students, and the bulk of those students are first generation low income or students of color. And we'd like to be able to replicate some of that work up here to expedite more students into the STEM fields, and you're going to see that with new degree programs. We'll launch mechatronics this fall, which is the next step into the engineering fields for us, and you'll see us continue to build out engineering over the course of the remainder of this decade, because it is a critical field in the region. It's a critical field in the nation, but particularly needed here: computer scientists, data scientists, cybersecurity, and engineering. So you'll see us launch mechatronics this fall. As we look at other aspects that are moving across the university, I think the biggest thing for me that is really a point of reflection, but as well as a point of passing of time, is a recognition that a lot of the things that I have taken for granted at the institution no longer exist, and that's our people. I don't know what your businesses are like, but we've seen about a 40% turnover in our staff from 2019 to now. The Great Resignation has been pronounced, but the good news is we're filling that with new ideas, new blood, and folks who are buying into the mission of the university, but a lot of new faces. And as I get out across the region, there are a lot of familiar faces, but there's also a lot of new faces. So one of the things we're going to be very prescriptive about this fall is getting the campus, getting our leadership, getting our coaches back out in a way to engage with the community, so that the community can get to know the new people at the university, and the university can reconnect with the needs of this region. Because as we look at this region, you know, we've all seen in the paper the past week and a half the stories about third grade readiness and what may happen with children and grandchildren over the summer. But one of the things that may have flown below your radar screen is that as we come out of COVID, the way that many individuals, particularly men, are looking at what comes next in their life has fundamentally changed. When I began as president of this university a decade ago, the college going rate for Northeast Tennessee was 65%. Now the college going rate for Northeast Tennessee is 50%. And in some of the counties in our region, the college going rate is 38%. Now that's the global number. If we look at that number for women and men, college going rates for women outpace that of men by 15%. So for many men in high schools around the community, few, if any, are going on to college. And college isn't ETSU. College is Northeast State. It's the TCAT at Elizabethton. It's anything beyond high school. And as we're trying to recruit these individuals to fill critical positions at the institution, and Eastman's got the same thing, TVA has the same thing, we can't find enough skilled workers to fill the gaps. So one of the things we're really going to push on this fall is how do we reinstill in people the recognition of the importance of some certification and training beyond high school to get a great job. And that's welding. I've got a nephew who graduated from the TCAT in Morristown as a welder, who is a traveling welder. Right now he's traveling to Kingsport and going back to Greenville, which makes his mom really happy. But he's making $110,000 a year as a 21-year-old welding. Why? Because of the certificate that he got at the TCAT. If he didn't get that certificate, he would be doing what a lot of his friends are doing, which is working at Pals or delivering DoorDash. But as I reflect on what we have accomplished and as I reflect at the things on the horizon, the opportunity to re-engage with the community, to re-engage with high schools, and to drive home the importance of some education and training beyond Dobbins-Bennett, Science Hill, Volunteer, Crockett, Boone, or the university school is critical to ensuring that this region continues to move forward. As I look forward to the upcoming fall, I'm excited about some things that are on the horizon at the university. I'm excited about the new academic programs. I'm excited about some of the new buildings that are coming up and out of the ground. But I'm also excited about some of the work that we're doing in the area related to veteran services in our ROTC program. You all may not know that for a regional university in the nation, no regional university in the nation has produced more flag officers than East Tennessee State University. You also may not know that in the battalion that rolls up to Fort Knox, what's the #1 ranked ROTC program in the Southeast? Not Knoxville, not Vanderbilt, not North Carolina, not Georgia, but East Tennessee State University. Top ranked ROTC program in the South. And if you're looking for a dynamic speaker, I would encourage you to have Colonel Dan Bishop come speak to you. Colonel Bishop has been with us for about a year. That name may be a name that some of you remember because a decade ago when the federal government was looking to shut down ROTC programs, he was the head of our program. And he put his career on the line to protect that program. He then went on and served. He did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. He went to work in the Pentagon. But when he retired, we kept in touch. And I said, why don't you come back and run our veteran services programs? And not only is he engaging with the veteran community in some pretty powerful ways, but he's making a lot of connections. And yesterday I had the opportunity to be at the Doubletree in Johnson City with about 100 individuals who were meeting to talk about building resilient communities and support and services for veterans across the region. So a lot of this work that has been central to the core of the institution since we opened our doors has really been invigorated by the leadership of Colonel Bishop. So if you're looking for a speaker, he would be a great speaker to add to the list. So I'm going to close with a little bit of a joke, and then I really would like to open it up to see what questions you may have for me. But the joke is a reflective joke that's somewhat on me and somewhat on my son. So last night was baccalaureate, and we're at baccalaureate service at church, and when it concludes, my son and 10 of his friends went to do the senior prank at school. And you know times have changed when the senior prank is supervised, but it was supervised. And from 9 until 11, the senior prank was supervised. What I didn't know is that my son stayed behind about 15 minutes later than he was supposed to, and he and his friends put some things in the school, and then he came home and we went to bed. Woke up this morning and he was to have been at school by 8:30 for senior pictures. Well, his alarm didn't work. So we're rushing him out the door. He gets there at 8:35, and as he comes up late and everyone's waiting on him, there's his principal. And his principal, because we'd send a note, Jackson's running late, his alarm didn't work, his principal handed my son 3 alarm clocks. And he said, Jackson, I found these in my office this morning when they were going off. How many others are hidden in the school? And he goes, well, we hid 43, so you got 40 more to find. And he goes, well, you didn't think enough to have one at home so you could get up to show up for the picture on time. So it's an honor to be with you today on Memorial Day weekend. It's a significant honor that so many have taken the time out of your Friday to be present. And I'd welcome the chance to answer any questions you may have.